Well, welcome everybody. This is our 20th broadcast, and actually it's our 20th broadcast of the year for 2018. And what I thought I'd do a little bit special and a little bit different for this last episode and airing for 2018 is I want to do a quick year in review with you just to sort of catch you up on all the things and all the activities at Compass Games as far as game releases, notable news, other efforts, etc. So my goal for this evening is just to walk you through some of our major milestones and releases of 2018. We'll do some review. What I'd also like to do is as I go through some of these game titles released from 2018, I'm going to try to pay very close attention to any comments that are on the web platform on Zoom as far as anybody, if they've owned the game or if they've even played the game. I would love to see any comments as I go through the various games that we're going to talk about from 2018. I want to do the same for Facebook Live, but for those on Facebook, please bear with me because there's about a 20-second lag, give or take, on Facebook before I can really see some comments come through. So I'm going to do my level best to hopefully keep an eye on comments on Facebook, and I'll do my best to sync up as we go. So I want to do quite a bit of that. Then I want to talk about sort of a quick preview into what we have in store for 2019 out of the gate. And also maybe I'll close out tonight's broadcast, since it's end of the year, with one little special treat as far as the latest game signing that we've been able to do as far as a future release. So I thought you'd be interested to know, what does Compass Games have in store as far as what have we secured the print rights to in the last time since we met, which has been almost 3 weeks now since we last met. So again, looking forward to covering all this with you. So what I'd like to do at this point is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen just to sort of start things off. So let me go ahead and do that. And of course, it's going to be my, what do we have here on the website? So you'll see the website here coming up momentarily as I switch over. So again, just real quick about our website, it hasn't changed. One of the things that stayed constant through 2018 for Compass Games was our website. So we didn't make any major changes to the website. I think one small thing we did, in case you may have noticed, is we added a little link banner at the very top of the web page, which you can dismiss. It will go away. It will only be there one time if you want to dismiss it. But it's our way to sort of let you know what's the latest news. And typically, the latest news is going to be about the latest game that's shipped out. In this case, it's Tinian, the Forgotten Battle. Or it could be that we have a special promotion going on, which I'll talk about at the end tonight. Or it could be about some new pre-order announcements. And we've had plenty of pre-orders this past year, to say the least. So as far as the website goes, it's pretty straightforward. We've got the newsletter sign up on the left where we send you a newsletter by email. And then we have one of the first things we added, actually, when I joined Compass a little over a year ago, was we added a product pipeline snapshot that goes through upcoming releases, which I'll cover at the end today. It also looks at our recent releases in chronological order from most recent down to later releases. That's on the bottom left. And then as you can see on the right side, we've been very, very active for 2018. This is just a partial list for 2018 of pre-orders that we've announced. And a lot of this was driven also through the Compass game catalog. And just for a sneak peek at the games that we released all the news we made for 2018, I think the best place to really start is with our catalog. So this is the catalog. I'm going to make my little thing smaller here. This is the catalog that we have sent out. So I hope everybody has gotten this catalog. It's something we send by direct mail, especially for North America. I know we send it for all our customers in North America, Canada. So if you're residing in those areas and you did not get a catalog, please email me. You can email me at john@compassgames.com or sales@compassgames.com. And let us know. We'll have your email address, but what we really need is your mailing address. So for the mailing address, that's where we want you to fill out the newsletter. That's on the left here. But most specifically, we're going to need your address, city, state, and zip code, because we're not going to be able to mail out the catalog without an actual shipping address. So if you could do that for us, that would be wonderful. If we have your email address and we can match you to our records on file, with our customer database, then we can, of course, look up your address that way. But the newsletter is one way to give us your address, or you can just email us your information. But as you can see from the catalog, everything you see here on the very top quadrant of this catalog were pretty much all releases from 2018. If I just scroll slowly through this list, through this entire section, we're going to actually cover these items. But as you can see here, these are all items that we've actually released during the calendar year, this calendar year. And again, just scrolling, and again, pretty much everything you see here. Now we're starting to get into some titles that have either just been released, like Tinian on the right, and then of course you start seeing Pacific Tide and Zeppelin Raiders. Those are now going to be shipping early next year. Pacific Tide is actually going to be one of our next releases for 2019. And Zeppelin Raiders got pushed out a little bit for artwork and production, but it's going to be coming definitely just after the first quarter of 2019 as well. So you can see quite a bit of activity. So please let us know if you didn't get our catalog. Please let us know if you didn't get our catalog, and we'll make sure that we get it out to you. But I think this is a good recap, and it also shows you sort of the breadth of titles that Compass has helped add to the sort of the product portfolio over the last year and what we have coming next year as well. Also, of course, we've got the games published in years prior. So if I scroll down here, you can see here it becomes an eye test. Nobody can really read my screen anymore, but it's based on genre or category, historical era. And you can see there's quite a few games here that we have as well from Compass. So again, quite a lot overall, but definitely 2018 was definitely one of our most active years for sure. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to talk just briefly about some of the highlights. So I just want to touch upon some quick numbers on some of the key metrics for 2018 for Compass and what we accomplished, and would love to get your comments on this, what you think as far as what we were able to deliver. So overall, we had, for 2018, we had 3 issues of Paper Wars that were released. Interestingly enough, they were also a nice spread in terms of historical era, Ancients, World War I, World War II, and I'll talk about those 3 games in a moment. So Paper Wars, we had 3 releases for 2018, spanning 3 different historical genres. So I think that was quite a nice balance we had. In terms of boxed games, so actual box games, not magazines, we had 19 box game releases for 2018. So curious how some of you think about that. Is that number lower than you thought? Do you think that's a good pace? It's averaging, in terms of box titles, it's averaging about less than 2, just a little bit below 2 titles a month as far as box titles. So I'm curious if you think that's a pretty good mix, to know that we've got, we're averaging 2 new games per month. And even if you look at our release schedule, that we'll end our broadcast with tonight. When you see that tonight, we're actually going to see we've got two games per month for January, February, and March. And already knowing what's coming in April and May, I think I see the same cadence at least. I see us keeping a steady 2 for the first 2 quarters of 2019. Hopefully that doesn't scare too many people. A lot of you know what those titles are. That's going to be coming out first and second half, and we'll get to that latter part of our session. So and thanks, Martin. Martin Svensson commented he thinks 19's a pretty good pace. It felt like a pretty good pace. It felt like, even though we almost did weekly or bi-weekly broadcasts, it felt like a pretty good pace. We always had something to provide an update on, or we had a new game release, or we could do a designer interview. So I think overall it was a pretty good balance, and we all survived the year, which is a pretty good sign, I think. So out of those 19 box games, 6, so nearly 33%, nearly a third of the games that were boxed. I think this is interesting. They were newer editions of previously released titles. Now, they're not all designer signature edition titles. There were just 2 of those, and those are projects that I'm involved in. But when we look across the span of all the box game releases for this year, 2018, there were actually 6 titles that had previous editions, and you'll see some of those. Again, they weren't all designer signature edition. They were also just newer editions, generically new editions as well. And we'll cover some of those. Some of those you can probably think of, because one of them was most recently introduced, which was what? It was War for the Union, which was a Rob Dama design that was done by Clash of Arms back in, I'd like to say, the late 80s, perhaps early 90s, but I want to say late 80s. So nearly 1/3 actually represented revisiting some previously published titles, taking another swing at the bat with the designers and seeing what we could do a good, capable job with those games. So those are the metrics. So we had 3 Paper War releases. We had 19 box games, and of those 19 box games, 6 were new additions. Now let's break down the games, all 22 games. I'm including Paper Wars now. Let's break them down by genre, by historical period. So this is, to me, it was somewhat surprising. One historical era came out quite strong. So first, I'll go through from modern to ancients. I'll go in that order. So for modern releases, I don't know if you can guess what that modern era post 1940-50 game was. There was one of them, and it was Korea. So that was several months ago. I'd say halfway through the year, we released Operational Scale System Korea. So that was our one title that was post World War II. So, but we do have more coming, right? We have Stalin's War from Tai Bomba, which is coming down the pike for first quarter of next year. So we're going to hit something in the modern era. Actually, that's going to be 21st century hypothetical pretty soon. So World War II, guess what? World War II, much like at my own Consum World Expo, or even at our very own Compass Games Expo, which we had for our first year, as typically happens, World War II, that garnered the most titles. So out of the 22 games that were released, including Paper Wars, out of the 22, 9 were from World War II. Nearly 50%, a good 40% of our titles were from World War II. I don't know if that surprises anybody or not, that 40% of our titles are from World War II. I would venture to say that's probably for historical war games. That's probably going to be pretty much down median average expectation. But what I found surprising, and this was very surprising to me actually, out of the 22 games, we had, nearly 20, over 25%, or nearly 25% were from the Great War. So we had six titles from the Great War. That surprised me. I wasn't expecting that high a number. For 2018, that also includes, of course, Paper Wars. We had Burning Mountain, which was World War I Italian front. So we had 6 World War I titles, and that ranks pretty high as far as, I think that's above average typically to have that many World War I games. So we had 9 for World War II, but then we had 6 for World War I. So a pretty high number. In terms of just general gunpowder era, could be Civil War, for example, like Battle Hymn, etc. We had 4 games released that were for the gunpowder era. And then finally, for Ancients, we had 1 release for Ancients, which was a Paper Wars release from Stephen Newberg again, Jihad. So again, overall, I think a pretty good balance. Obviously, for modern, I think everything was bookended between modern era and Ancients. We had 1 release, but then World War II was very strong as expected, but surprisingly strong was World War I era. So what I'd like to do is I'd just like to walk you through those titles. And as I walk through, if you have any comments about those titles, I'd like to know, for example, if you own the game, if you've seen the game. I'd be very curious if you have any comments about it. I'd be happy to share your comments as well. So I'm going to go ahead and let's take a quick peek at what those games were. So we'll do that now. So let's start with, and I'm going to go in chronological order except for Paper Wars. I'll do Paper Wars together at the end because we had 3 releases. So looking at the comments on Facebook, hello to everybody there, Stephen, Rick, Robert, Eric, Kev Sharp. Great to see you, Kevin. Great to have you all online. I'm going to now walk through basically everything that happened in 2018, and this is a great chance for you to throw in a quick comment if you got a strong opinion about that game. Oh, you did something wrong with it. You could have done this, or when's the next one coming, or any questions about any of these games. Please let me know. So the first release that started our year off was The War, the expansion kit for The War. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, for the war, we're basically out of print for the base game. So we've got the expansion kit left over. So again, that was our very first release for that year. I'm glad to hear from Richard that he's bought the main game and hasn't played it yet. So Richard, you're in great shape because you can relax now, because you don't have to worry about finding the game on the secondary market or through a reseller. I'm sure some resellers might have it as far as being in stock, but as far as direct orders, we're definitely out of stock. We actually sold out at Compass Games Expo early November, about 2 months, a little less than 2 months ago. So glad to hear, Richard, that you got the main game, and then I think you might be interested in the expansion kit then for the game as well. So that was the first game, was the expansion kit. So I'm glad to hear from one of you that you've got the base game. Wonderful news. Next was a project that I spearheaded, which was my second project for Compass Games. It follows the Designer Signature Edition. You can see the big emblem emblazoned. This was interesting. This project was interesting because the effort to secure the designer publishing rights to this game were longer than the time it took to actually finish the game. So the history on working with David Lee Williams, the designer, he's done some great games. Old SPI guy, he's done some work with Anzio, etc. Done some great games. Was really tough to get a hold of David. Finally, was able to get a hold of him. And Red Star White Eagle was actually, that was my pet project, to do any type of a game as a reboot and a designer, larger components, all new rule booklet, all new player aids. This was my sort of dream scenario. So I sort of spent about 3-4 years trying to find David Williams, and then was able to track him down. And it didn't take 4 years to finish the project. Once we had the green light from David. So I was very nervous about this project, because David can get very critical about what publishers have done with his games in the past. But I was very relieved to hear. Of course, what you say about these games is absolutely critical, but it's always refreshing to hear, especially from somebody like David Williams, that he loved the game, that he loved the job we ended up doing with it. We stayed in the lane with it. We didn't change anything. We just enhanced things. And he asked for a bunch of extra copies of, he asked for a bunch of extra designer copies. So I think that was a thumbs up from David Williams for Red Star White Eagle. So if you don't have this game, I hope you'll consider it. It's one of the games that really has stood the test of time. It's got some great mechanics. I love the soak-off rolls and how zone of control affects movement for zone of control bonds and the range factors that zone of controls can put on a hex for movement, to curtail movement, also affecting retreat for losses. Very, very interesting game, a very interesting topic. Actually worked great as a 3-player game. So I hope you have a chance to definitely check it out. So let's move on from Red Star White Eagle to our next release, and that was, again, we're staying in that lane for World War I era. We're staying straight in that lane. This is another game that represents sort of a new edition of a previously released game, and here we have Empires and Alliances from Rob Bama. So again, World War I, very well known for the World War I game that was done by Avalon Hill, that we were able to do a brand new version of. This is 3 maps, I believe. It's quite a big game if you haven't had a chance to check it out yet. So definitely check out the information about the game if you can here. It's very playable. The number of counters is very low for the game. It's based on Guns of August from Avalon Hill. You can read about it. So it's sort of a reboot of Guns of August with some lessons learned from Rob Bama, but he kept the game very simple. That as a designer, that's how Rob Bama really works. So if you like games that have traditional wargame mechanics from the 70s, that screams out 1970s with a few refinements, that's what Rob Bama does as a designer. So this is very much down the middle, very low complexity, low unit density, nice big maps. So definitely something to check out if you have the chance. So it looks like Richard may have just commented that he's got the game. He's played the game in his group. He enjoyed it. And he says, I needed some extra cards to organize the units, which come with it as time goes on. So something there to be aware of. But glad to hear that his groups enjoyed Empires and Alliances. So a nice, big, larger size World War I game, but not complex by any stretch of the imagination. So one of our most popular hits of the year was a game that basically sold out already. And a lot of you are going to know what this game was and who the designer is. It's Battle Hymns by Eric Lee Smith. So if you're familiar, a lot of you are going to be familiar tonight with Across 5 Aprils by Eric Lee Smith that was done by Victory Games. This is, again, a reboot. This is a reboot of the system. It's quite a bit different as well, although he picked the same battles to sort of follow Across 5 Aprils. I didn't count this game as part of the 6 new additions because there was enough of a difference, I felt, to not call it a new edition of, say, Across 5 Aprils. It is a different game. It is a new combat system and other things that were changed with it. So this game has sold out. So this was a spectacular success. We weren't really surprised by the success, to be honest. We wish we still had the game in stock. We knew it was going to do well, but you know, the demand was so strong for this game. We sold out. So I hope for those of you online, you might just raise your hand and say, yeah, I've got this game already, because we sold this game to a lot of people. So I'd be curious how many of you perhaps don't have this game. I don't know how hard this will be to find on the resale market, and might still be around there a little bit. But this was one of the games that I think had a very strong presence online, on Twitter and Facebook, etc., and social media, which helped fuel the adoption and interest in the game. So this one went very fast. What also was a very strong game was Raiders of the Deep. To me, part of it has to be the box art. So this was another project I worked on, and Newt Grunitz put together this box art that's so thematic, and it actually works perfect for a Gregory M. Smith solitaire game, which is based on the Hunter's game system, because everything about Greg's solitaire game, it's like storytelling. The gameplay narrative is amazing for these games and these systems that Greg has done, and taking the Hunters to World War I. With Raiders of the Deep, when I saw the box cover, I was like, okay, this one I think is going to do well, just because it's, well, first of all, Ian Cooper is the actual designer who used Greg's system, Ian B. Cooper, and Ian's a World War I historian. So he basically came up with the entire game from the Hunters on his own. He then contacted Gregory Smith. They of course, came together. They collaborated a little bit, but Ian was really in the driver's seat on this game, and Greg helped out more on the lines of playability, things like that. But what's really great about this release, and the reason it's really strong, is the historical research on World War I U-boats was very strong, and the history about the target ships, all the historical target ships. So it's very, and then of course the technologies that come into play during the Great War, all that is captured, and you can see that play through in the history of the game, as long as you can survive that long in the game. But again, this was a very popular game that did very well for us. So next is our one modern title that we released, Korea. So moving on to Korea, let me see the comments here. Thank you, Martin Svensson, again, mentioning you own Battle Hymn, you've played the Pea Ridge scenario. See, that's interesting. Most people I would guess have played the Gettysburg scenario first, and I'd say 80% of online postings have been on Gettysburg. So hat tip to Martin Svensson for playing the Pea Ridge scenario first. I think that's a really interesting battle. So I think it's great that you chose that. So very cool to see that. So Korea, operational scale system. This one's done very well. I've also been very keen to the feedback that the rules could have perhaps been sharper when they were released. There were some issues with errata, which I know we've recently, in the last month at least, released the Word document. Adam Starkweather wanted people to have a look at the Microsoft Word document. That's easier to edit if you want to have any comments for those that own the game already, to make sure that the rules are really tight as we reformat them, desktop publish format into multiple columns with the examples and illustrations. So we released that over a month ago. We know the rules were a hindrance for some people, and it was a frustration for some, but we've got those new rules out. And the main thing is people are saying they love the system, they love the topic, Korea. So we're very happy to hear about that. So Korea Fire and Ice operational scale system, a really intriguing topic for people. And of course, we've got some more Korea games coming down the pike as well as soon. So again, interested in any comments you may have about Korea. We are definitely looking for people. We have the Word document that's available. If you would like access to that, we can send it to you as we get a new edition of the rules available for download. So again, going back to the Great War, because we did a lot with the Great War, and I think one of the this could be possibly one of the best game series out there as far as what I've seen in terms of the research, the map work that's done on these battles to recreate them for World War I at a tactical level. So we released Volume 2 of the Red Poppies campaigns, and again, just a great job done here by the designer. So I definitely recommend you check it out. If you don't have this already, there's also Volume 1 that's, I believe, is still available as well. We might still have limited quantities left, but this is a great historical battle, great game system, not overly complex, but very rich in terms of historical detail. So I definitely hope you can check out Volume 2. Don't know how many of you might have this game as well. Feel free to jump in with your comments about the game. So right now we're probably nearing, I'm guessing around we're hitting around the May timeframe, April-May timeframe as far as our game releases, or maybe we're hitting early summer. Actually, I think we're hitting early summer because I know what happened was for WBC. I know we released around that time Bitter Woods. So Bitter Woods, again, World War II, this was one of those 6 titles that was a new edition. This was a reprint. A straight reprint because we already came out with a new edition designed by Randy Heller. Extremely popular game. I know Randy ran a tournament play for Bitter Woods during Compass Games Expo. So I think I see it played at Consum World Expo as well, WBC, etc. Very popular game. So not too many games get restocked by Compass, but this is one that's done very well. Very popular topic, obviously. So we put Bitter Woods back in stock summer timeframe. So great game there. Next, we have Blood on the Ohio. So Blood on the Ohio again. Another fantastic game from the Gunpowder era. So again, getting away from World War II by John Paniski. He's done quite a bit of work in this era. So again, not one of these off-beaten titles. So a lot of people comment from Compass, they like to see us doing titles that aren't, generic World War II games all the time. And here's a case in point of Blood on the Ohio. Then probably one of our biggest releases of the year, obviously, was our Volume 1 of our Liberation series. Again, this is going to our company scale system, which we have the Marianas campaign, and we have now up to 3 titles on that with the release of Tinian, but now we're taking it to the Western Front, World War II. Montelimar, 5 maps, and now I'm getting excited. This is where my blood flow gets going. Montelimar, lots of smaller scenarios. 5 maps. Now, very manly monster game and not overly complex either again. This is why I love this game system. So again, this is an extremely popular game series, company scale system by Adam Starkweather, and wonderful map graphics, counter work, ton of scenarios, 1 map or more that you can choose from to get into the game. Again, really has done well for us. This is, I think, one of the more obscure titles that we released for 2018 was Prelude to Rebellion. So this covers the mobilization and unrest in Lower Canada. So it's great when our Canadian friends come down like they did from Montreal for Compass Games Expo. They're like, all right, this is awesome. You actually did a game, what made you do this on Lower Canada? Where did you even decide to do this game, to actually publish this on such a topic that's fairly esoteric? And really, it's all about the game system. So I know Rich Whitmer recently did, Mike Wilner recently did a great sort of mini review, capsule review on Prelude to Rebellion for us. I think it first appeared on Kev Sharp's big board, I believe about a month ago. And then it came out, I think, on Board Game Geek probably a week later. But also, he did a unboxing of Prelude to Rebellion, so we really want to get the word out about this game. You think about the topic, it's like, what is this? But I think that's one of the reasons why I love the hobby so much. I don't just buy or get it, or myself, I don't just look at games that I know the historical topic inside out already, and there's really nothing for me to learn through playing. So this is an example of a game I'd go, my God, what is this about? What can I learn from it? Probably A through Z is what I'll learn about it, because I don't know really anything about this to be honest with you. It's one of those type of games. But the game system really struck a chord with the folks at Compass, and we're very happy to bring this to market. So that's Prelude to Rebellion. Back to another designer signature edition title, and this was my first effort with Vance von Boris, which I was very excited to be working with Vance. Really enjoyed this project. Just for kicks, to make it a little more interesting, we decided to do 2 games in one. So if you have the old Wargamer releases of these, you'll know about Bloody Karen or Drive on Damascus. Those are the 2 games that would have this new game title, Forgotten Legions for World War II. Again, Drive on Damascus and Bloody Karen. They're both in one box. And very happy, very surprised to see several months just after the release of this game. I want to give a shout out to Kev Sharp at the Big Board. He recently did a sort of an impromptu unboxing of Forgotten Legions, and I really like how he tried to compare and contrast that to the original games like Drive on Damascus and what the original Drive on Damascus map looked like, which was that dot by dot movement map with no hex grid whatsoever. I really recommend you guys. I hope you have, for example, Red Star White Eagle from GDW. I really hope you have that game. If you would take Red Star White Eagle from GDW and contrast that to what we did with Red Star White Eagle, and you'll notice in every intro section, first page of the rules when you open it up, I always talk about bullet point format. The first thing you're going to wonder, what did you do to make this game better? Not what did you do to F up this game, right? Not what did you do to change it, just to call it a new edition, because we know all about games that get changed a ton. Just to call them a new edition, and everybody's sort of pissed off because it's nothing like the original game that didn't need that much work to begin with, and it ends up having its own set of errata, to deal with. So I never take that approach. I stay in the lane of improving games that have been released already, and even great games like Red Star White Eagle, or the game Vance did here. This was a very unique case, because the first thing I do is I ask the designer, what would you like to change about your previous published game to make it better? Always to make it better. Is it minor stuff? I know we're going to get the errata. We're going to cover all that stuff, of course, but is there anything different you want to do? Vance was like this. Vance was like, oh no, I want to make changes. I want to make changes to the design. It's been a while. I want to do this differently. So in a way, this is like a new game. It's sort of like a pseudo new game system. It ended up being a standard set of rules that is shared common to both games in the box as well. But Vance basically, if you read the bullet points at the beginning of the rules for the standard rules that cover both games, we cover all the changes pretty much, all the high level changes that have been made to this game, and all for the better. It was all done for the better. It was all done through Vance and through the project team we had that had experience with the game. So again, really happy to see this game. It's starting to get more attention. It's one of these games that's really starting to take off. I'm seeing more reviews about it. Just FYI, we're going to have a Vassal module released for Forgotten Legions early next year. So those that are might be chomping at the bit now that want to play it on Vassal will be getting a Vassal module out for Forgotten Legions as well. So again, really excited about that. Just to catch up here, Richard Whitmer commented on Montelimar. He played a 2-map scenario with his group. So thanks for sharing that, Richard. I love seeing your comments, whatever you can share about these games. At this time's really want to hear from you, what you have to say about these games. Glad to hear you enjoyed it. You said, but the scenario seemed one-sided during play. So it looks like there was a 2-map scenario that seemed one-sided for play is what you said. Maybe the campaign game is needed to realize the true balance of the game. So interesting comment. So I'm going to tell, this is how I'm going to reply. This is how I'm going to reply to Richard. I'm going to take a page out of what Richard Berg said back in the days of when SPI released Campaign for North Africa. So Campaign for North Africa was released, and this is several years down the road, back before internet perhaps and all that. SPI got a letter, player feedback that said the campaign game seems unbalanced for Campaign for North Africa. And of course, you know what that game's all about. It takes a few years. It takes a minimum of a few years to play the campaign. So Richard Berg's flippant response was, just tell them they played it wrong to try again. So there's the next 5 years for them to go back and find out about the play balance for the game. So now I'm not taking jest at Richard's comment. So I think it's interesting. So there's a challenge in what Richard's saying. So I don't know what the 2-map scenario was, because there's more than one named 2-map scenario. So it'd be interesting to find out what that is. Then it'd be interesting to contrast that to the victory conditions, and it'd be good. It would actually be a good exercise to go a little deeper with. I wouldn't mind prodding a little bit, getting that information to Adam, and just seeing, where the play balance seemed to be off. But again, I know part of it's all about playing the game. But I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by your comments, Richard, and it always takes me back to that famous quote from Richard Berg that I love, for a campaign for North Africa, and these group of guys playing it for 5 years. I think this game's unbalanced. What should we do, Richard? What should we do? So anyway, enough about that. So another huge, big success for 2018, which was also released. We were able just to get copies in time down to WBC, and that was Russia Besieged. So this was another, again, one of our 6 new editions that I mentioned for 2018, this being for Russia Besieged. Being a nice deluxe edition by Art Lupinacci. So again, very popular system. I think this game came from the roots of a Russian campaign, which Art had republished for L2, his company L2 Design. And then he had his own design. He did his own take on the same period, but with his own design, his own labor of love. His own labor of love, which was Russia Besieged. And it was great that Compass could partner with Art and do a deluxe edition, giving Art a second, swing of the bat, if you so to speak, with Russia Besieged. And again, a very popular topic. And this is a very nice, big game. People have commented they love the larger hexes and the larger counters that are available for the game. So again, very nice comments to see that. Now, this next one might not be a big surprise to many of you, because this one's probably been the most talked about release, other than perhaps Battle Hymn, in terms of, I'd say, social media for sure. In terms of the pure number of posts, the Players Aid has been great. They've done a lot of interviews with Greg Smith. They seem to love the Nightfighter Ace game as well. The folks at the Players Aid. We've seen a lot of, I can't name all the people that have talked about Nightfighter Ace, and they've posted pictures playing it. All the custom fan-based player aids that were created, or custom fan-based material, just to augment, again, it's all about the storytelling and the gameplay narrative of Nightfighter Ace. So this was a huge, huge success for us, absolutely. Just like with Raiders of the Deep, World War II. This game did so well out of the chute. I talked to Greg right away about doing the Daylight. We need to cover Daylight. Same game, but so that's going to be Interceptor Ace. And that's the game we're going to release the first half of 2019. That's a no-brainer to do, honestly. But there's some twists and turns and some nice bag of tricks Greg's pulled out in terms of enhancing the combat system for doing Interceptor Ace, which is really going to be something. But again, it all goes back to Nightfighter Ace. Again, this game's done gangbusters, and we're just so happy to hear how everybody's really enjoyed playing the game, and the play narrative of it is just amazing as well. So again, all of you might be familiar with Gregory M. Smith's designs already. He's one of our most active designers we're working with, that I'm working with, that I have the pleasure to work with in terms of various projects. So going to see a lot of interesting stuff coming from Greg, but I think Nightfighter Ace is obviously going to be enjoyed for a long, long time. Next, we have another new edition of a game. This one's interesting, I think, because we did do Jihad in Paper Wars, which was a Stefan Newberg design. Stefan Newberg's a great industry personality. A lot of you are going to know, back from the 70s and 80s. I particularly remember Stefan Newberg, not for games that he's designed, that he's done a lot of great, interesting games, but for his F&M Fire and Movement review, where he absolutely trashed he trashed the designer for Upscope. So Upscope was one of my favorite games. I can't explain why. I loved Upscope from SPI. I remember, I think I was in the 6th or 7th grade, and I woke up at 6 a.m. on a Sunday. I didn't have school, and I had the Upscope rules open with a highlighter. Or I think they had highlighters back then, but I was an excited 14-year-old. I had Upscope rules up at 6 a.m. Nobody else was up in the house, on the floor, on the carpet, probably pajamas with the little old TV playing a cartoon. I was going through my Upscope rules. I love how Stefan Newberg he went through the review and Fire and Movement, and he just like designed the game on his own. Like it should have been done this way. So maybe for Roger McGowan, it was a lesson learned. Maybe don't have a designer of a game on the same topic review a game by another designer. It was brutal. It was brutal. But anyway, check out Fire and Movement Upscope review, and have a drink while you're at it. It goes well together with any alcoholic beverage, I think. But Lebensraum is a title that Stefan Newberg did. We did a nice big version of it that covers West, East, covers all of the European theater. I talked to a few folks that attended Compass Games Expo. I got to see this game that I'm showing right now. I got to see it not just set up, but played less than 2 months ago in November at Compass Games Expo. And there were some interesting variations that we came up with just in looking at the game and the situation that I was a huge fan of. Like I find the game very interesting already, but to be honest with you, I think there were some very cool rules we came up with that just right there. It's not a project I was involved in, but this is a great game, but I think it's one that could be even better with some very interesting rules that I think I'd like to release, maybe in Paper Wars, in a future edition of Paper Wars. But it's a very nice big game covering all of Europe. Definitely, it's got a very interesting system where you expand or burn resource points, which basically gives you like movement factors to burn for units for what they can do for movement and combat operations. So definitely something worth checking out is Lebensraum. Now we're getting closer to near the end of the year, so we're still going through all these titles. We had our first expansion for Tricorne, Commands and Colors Tricorne. I saw a comment. Matter of fact, there was a Twitter post just in the last week. I haven't even had a chance to retweet it yet, as they say. Somebody had Command and Colors Tricorne set up, and they were just appreciating the little bit of added chrome to the game that's been added by Richard Borg, because again, it's covering the American Revolutionary War period. And compared to Napoleonics or Ancients, there are additional things that have to be modeled, which basically, yeah, it forced his hand to come up with some very nice new mechanics to add to the game. And people have really appreciated the little extra layer, that little extra sauté sauce on the main ingredient was added. A little more historical chrome was needed to cover this historical period, and it came out just right. People really enjoying it. So this expansion has done really well for us. So I hope you get a chance to try the game for sure. So moving on to the next one, we have, okay, so this one's done. This was okay, so for Compass Games Expo, which I want to talk about for a second, in November, early November, Veterans Day weekend, this was our #2 bestseller. We did everything basically at 50% off to thank all the attendees that showed up. You know, we're happy to do it, just to thank everybody for being there. This game just took off. So this was our #2 seller at the Expo. People were saying they love this type of game, reminds them a little bit of Twilight Struggle, just the whole concept and the spirit of the game. But here it is, Prelude to the Great War, very interesting topic, interesting personalities and leaders, political situation at the time, of course, and really some great comments about the game. So here we have Europe in Turmoil, which has been a hot cake for us. And just a point in fact, Nightfighter Ace was our #1 seller at Compass Games Expo with Prelude, Europe in Turmoil right behind it. So again, just the thematic topic, the type of game system, card-driven game. A lot of people love card-driven games. So this game did extremely well. And thanks to Rick Thomas for commenting on Facebook Live, thanking us. Very happy to hear that he enjoyed how Tricorne expansion turned out. So it sounds like he's enjoying the expansion to Tricorne. So very happy to hear that from you, Rick Thomas. Thanks for your comment on that. So again, Europe in Turmoil, please check it out if you haven't already. The game that also just got the most oohs and ahs at our game convention, because this was the one game we couldn't offer out of the 100 or whatever we had during Compass Games Expo at 50% off, because it was a brand new release during the weekend of Compass Games Expo, and that was Rob Bama's new edition of The War for the Union, which came out from Clash of Arms. So what was the overriding comment for this game? No doubt, stunning graphics, stunning graphic treatment for the game. People love the artwork. They love the rules layout, the layout of the rules. Now this, I've mentioned earlier in this broadcast that Rob Bama is a type of designer that's going to stay in that lane for like a 1970s style game. I was making that comment about his World War I game, obviously Empires and Alliances that we did, that was based on Guns of August. This is different. This is not 12 pages of rules for War for the Union. It's big text. It's large size text, 2 columns only, not 3. So, less text per page, but with illustrations and a lot of illustrations, it comes up to around 45 pages of rules for War for the Union. But the rules are not insurmountable by anyone's imagination. Again, it's large size text is what I would call the rules booklet. And again, it's a wonderful game, very, very rich in flavor. I believe somebody's even asked about doing the Vassal module for this, and I've been going back and forth with drawing a blank with I believe it was Ken Dingley, who may have had somebody already started the Vassal module for War for the Union. So we do want to get a Vassal module out on this, and somebody had volunteered as well. And I'm still trying to get straight if the Vassal module work's already begun for War for the Union, because we definitely. This is a gorgeous game, everybody. I wouldn't say this. I wouldn't just say this for Compass, for any publisher. This is what everybody was saying about the game and the rule booklet, which was done in-house, again by Ken Dingley. Just a fantastic job throughout. So please check it out. This game's fairly new. Just came out in November last month. This was one I was very happy to take back myself personally from Compass Games Expo. I couldn't wait to get my hands on this game when I saw it. Just a beautiful, beautiful game. So the last box release, drum roll please, for 2018 obviously was the third entry, third volume, Volume 3 Mariana's Campaign, which is Tinian, which is great because if you haven't got into company scale system yet for the Pacific Theater, this is great because it's one map. And I would definitely recommend you check it out if you haven't dabbed your feet yet in the Pacific for company scale system. Tinian is definitely your ticket because it's just going to be one map. It's going to be gentle on you. So the rules the rules were always good for this series. But of course, they've evolved just that little bit. They've been refined just that little bit with this third volume set of the standard rules for the company scale system. So please check out Tinian. That was our last release that came out this month. I'd be curious if you've got your Tinian game already. If you ordered direct or pre-ordered from us, you should have received Tinian by now, especially if you're in North America or Canada. We've been shipping them for at least, we started about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago almost, shipping out Tinian. So hopefully you're enjoying that game. So I want to talk about next are the 3 Paper War game releases we had this year in chronological order. We had from Steven Newberg, again, back to Simulations Canada, one of his releases. And again, he did a lot of interesting releases. I'm really happy to see we could do some of his games, whether boxed or in Paper Wars. We have here Scourge of God, which was done for the 1200s AD. So that was Paper Wars issue 88. So I hope you may have a subscription. Of course, as we do with pretty much every issue, as part of the counter sheet, we'll try to slip in some bonus counters, which can be just additional counters as bonus, like for a new scenario, or maybe new markers that weren't included in the game, or just new ideas for any game. We'll throw in bonus markers. And then, of course, if we find any errata for a game and we have a chance to do errata counters, we will go ahead and try to get them in Paper Wars as well. So each issue of Paper Wars, and I notice in recent editions, we've done a really good job. We usually dedicate a single page in Paper Wars to show an image just of the portion of the counter sheet, which is that bonus counter section. So the bonus counter section are the counters that aren't for that game that's inserted and featured in that issue, but it's for multiple games from Compass that we're supporting, whether through bonus optional rules or errata counters. So I think it's a great idea that we, through Adam Starkweather as the editor, hat tip to Adam, that we do a separate page just to spotlight what those bonus counters are and for which games they are, and how many counters there are for which game and where they are located. And it's great that I think we do that as a service to the customers. So again, that's Paper Wars 88. And then mid part of the year, again, I mentioned the Great War. We did six games on the Great War. Here's a great title from a European designer, I believe out of Italy, which was his Burning Mountains, 1916, Austrian-Hungarian spring offensive against Italy. Definitely a great little game, about a half map, just a nice, perfect size for a magazine game, for a game you want to get open the magazine, read the rules, be done with the rules in about 60 minutes or so, have a very quick setup of 5 or 10 minutes, and then hopefully you're on your way enjoying the game. And again, it's on the Great War, which I think is a great topic. And then most recently, we released Macarthur, The Road to Bataan. So that was another game that was released in the Wargamer magazine. This was a Jack Green design, a very interesting topic, Road to Bataan. What we did is we added a solitaire play mode with some rules with you as the Japanese player playing the game solitaire, as obviously you're going to be overrunning, and the Americans really struggling on the defensive. So we did all the errata for the game, obviously, from the original release in Wargamer magazine. And then what we did was we added some solitaire rules for you as the Japanese player. So this is a look back at 2018. Those are the 19 box games, the 3 magazine games, total of 22 games we did, again, with 6 of those being newer editions of previously released games through the years. I think we're on pace. If you look at our schedule, let me go ahead and skip to our schedule now. So let me do that. I'm going to find the page that I want, which is right here. So let's talk about our schedule for 2019, how we're going to come out of the gate. So I mentioned that we're going to be at a steady clip of doing at least 2 game releases per month is what I can definitely envision for the first half of 2019. And as a matter of fact, we just recently updated our schedule on December 23rd, which you see here, and 2 titles were moved back out of the schedule to come after March. So I already know for that April-June timeframe, we definitely got 2 games lined up already that are going to hit in that area. So I'm feeling very bullish that we're going to have 2 game releases per month. So as you can see here, top left corner and again, this is also posted on the Console World Forum Game Company support topic. We have Gregory M. Smith's next release, and also his very first pure 2-player game. So this is now a 2-player game, but it does have a solitaire bot system, so you can play the game solitaire as well. And it has a dedicated bot system to it that the bot plays the other side. But that's going to be coming out early January, just after the new year. We're going to have Pacific Tide, and then Paper Wars issue with the game mentioned Jihad that's going to be coming out. So there's Paper Wars issue 91. And then we have, in February, we have Vietnam, Rumor of War. That's operational scale system. Adams posted some recent images of that as well. And then Stalin's World War III by Tai Bamba will be coming out in February. So those are our 2 titles. And actually, we've done some work, obviously, this past year with our Euro game division by Uli Blenneman. And Colonialism, the expanded 2nd edition, is going to be coming out in February of 2019. So that's going to be our pseudo 3rd game. So actually we go above 2 games for 2019, counting our Euro game, Colonialism. And then we have, again, from Gregory Smith, back to the solitaire hunters type game system. Zeppelin Raider, Imperial German Naval Airships will be in March, along with from the late Steve Rouet, who unfortunately passed away last year. Just after, obviously his design was finished. Fortunately, he got to see a lot of the work we had done on the artwork, the counters. He saw the box art a few days, actually before his passing. I think it's good news. I'm happy he got to see the front box cover to the late Unpleasantness from the late Steve Rouet. So that's 2 games in 1 on the Civil War. I'm very happy to say that John Kisner is assisting us. He's going through the game now as a late stage proofer of both games for the late Unpleasantness, and it's a wonderful to have John Kisner involved. He's done some great contributions in the hobby. He's been a great stalwart to the hobby with Zone Control Magazine, did a lot with Operational Scale System as well. And it's wonderful to have him working a project for us at Compass. And I want to thank John Kisner for helping us and volunteering to help us. So as you can see here, for the first quarter of 2019, we have at least 2 titles each month. And you've seen a few titles perhaps a few weeks ago that were actually on this list that got pushed out that are going to be coming as well later. So we have a very good schedule coming for the first half of 2019. One thing I'd like to also mention about what was happening this past year was our Facebook page, which I'm on live now. So this is weird. I'm broadcasting on Facebook Live, and I'm also showing Facebook. So just want to mention, we have our Facebook page here. It's actually worked out really well for us. We've averaged more than one new, follower or friend to our page per day. You know, we've added about 450 new followers this past year, which is great. And we didn't do really too much of a Facebook advertising campaign. I don't know if we did anything or not for 2018 at all for paid ads. I think I did a bunch in 2017 when I first joined the company to help out, but I don't know if we really did anything for 2018, to be honest. But I was really happy to see organically we've grown our page by at least 1 new member per day. So over 400 new members, and we're up to 2,500 people, as you can see here. And just a quick tip: if you're on Facebook, if you could invite your friends to just click on these and send them an invite, that's great for us, because it asks them to like our page, so they will see our postings. And as you can see here, we've got some posts from Vietnam. Rumor of War from Adam Starkweather. He's just posted from his Vassal module, late play test, what's going on for Vietnam. You can see here's my broadcast as well that's been going on. Let me see if I can scroll past here. But what we do is we do, again, more Vietnam. We do a lot of feedback. We've got the YouTube video from Kev Sharp for Forgotten Legions. We've got playtest updates or designer updates, in this case from Masahiro Yamazaki in Japan, on For Motherland that we're going to be releasing, on and on. So, and actually I've done some Snap informal surveys, because I know I can get a response in less than 6 hours. And for our last survey question I posted, it was about it was a question about Fortress Europa game counters, and how to do the reverse side of the counters to designate that they're reduced strength. I got over 100 responses in a day. So that to me is the power of Facebook. That for me, how it benefits me is that I have not only a direct connection to you on Facebook Live tonight, which is great, and I hope you're enjoying it, but I can get literally live feedback from you as I'm working on a project and I hit sort of a fork in the road, and I need to get my bearings straight with some ideas and confirmation from you. You guys do that for me in droves. It's awesome. So you guys did a great job. And matter of fact, just in regards to Fortress Europa, just as a sneak peek, I wanted to share with you on that we've been recently working on the game map for Fortress Europa. So this is a big popular, based on the Avalon Hill edition from John Edwards. We obviously did the African campaign. We did the African campaign for John Edwards as a designer signature edition, which sold out a little over about a month ago. So that game sold out, and we're expecting great results. This is at least a map and a half. This is nearly 2 maps of Fortress Europa with 5/8" counters. And as you can see here, we've gone very far with progress on the game map by Bruce Irian. We've not only got the textures, which I did informal polls on, what type of terrain types to do, but also we've now added all the charts and displays as well to the game map. So you guys have been spectacular again with helping me with various options on how can we do the game map with the various textures. So you can see the results of that with the different terrain types, getting here into the alpine terrain as well. But what we've done since then, as a quick snapshot update report, We've added the charts and tables. And again, right now, we've just started the initial proofing stage. So the game developer, Randy Heller, he was the official answer man for this game for Avalon Hill Game Company for about 15 plus years. So we've got the perfect person for this game project. And again, this is going to be a great release of Fortress Europa from John Edwards. I know we've done a great job with the map, with what the unit counters, the 5/8 inch. It's going to be a beauty to behold. It's going to be a great game, great classic game to play. But a lot of the feedback I got on this game came from Facebook, just by asking questions, same day questions from you, the viewers. So thank you so much for your help on that. Also, I want to mention, for the past year, we've been on our Twitter page, our Twitter feed, and here you can see what we post on Twitter. Is things we don't really have an active blog to speak of. From our website, we have a website that will be updated at some point. It's not really set up to be. We're really not set up with a blog area on our homepage. So here you can see a lot of quick articles here from Gregory Smith on Evil Queen of the Skies, which is a takeoff on Avalon Hill's B-17 Queen of the Skies. This is Evil Queen of the Skies, hypothetical Germans bombing North America when they've been successful in World War II and they're bringing the war to America. So this actually has a huge following on Facebook as well, where Gregory Smith has made the playtest kit available. But here on Twitter, again, you can see the Tricorne game. We've got Kev Sharp's game, and all these people are very active. The Player Aid group is extremely active on internet and on Twitter, at Facebook, on all the mediums, etc. But here, a lot of, even our Euro game gets coverage here, colonialism. So just a bunch of coverage about all our games. We've got our Twitter feed, so please check out. We're at, you can just search Compass Games. We're at Compass Games LLC, and you'll find us there just by doing a search on Compass Games. So we're pretty active on our Twitter feed, absolutely, just like our Facebook page, and of course on the Constant World forum as well. So I did want to mention a few other things real briefly, and that is we've had some good milestones to finish out the year for 2018. The first milestone, although I would say Bill Thomas and Ken have a few days to still decide, I'm going to actually survive a full year being at Compass Games. So I hope that's been good for you folks, because I've had my hand in several game projects which you may have bought. So thanks for supporting the games and the game projects, especially the ones I've been involved in, like Designer Signature Edition or a Nightfighter Ace. But absolutely all the games from Compass, Paper Wars, really appreciate all the support. You actually help us with your word of mouth for these games to be purchased from other people as well, and by playing them and talking about them online helps a ton as well. So again, appreciate all the help. So for me, it's an anniversary to finish out the year. So a few lessons learned for me. I just want to share with you candidly, what are things that I, John Kranz, can do better at Compass? I just taking a look at my year, and I think some of you will not be shy with your chat comments on Facebook Live. So I expect this is your chance to, get at me if you want. But in all seriousness, so the biggest learning lesson I had out of the chute was I got caught off balance with African Campaign when that was released, because I had some embarrassing counter errata, which basically slipped through some shoddy Q&A on which I was responsible for. I'm the guy responsible for the quality assurance of projects that I'm heading, and effectively I dropped the ball, and we had to issue errata counters, and you got them out of the box. So we took, Bill and Ken, Bill took care of it. So we made sure we did a mailing, and then we put them in the box for games that didn't ship out yet. So for me, it made me revisit the entire process of how I do projects at Compass Games. So every project that I do, just FYI, I use online service, I use software. So I'm a big proponent of using whatever tools I can to help with collaboration. So I use something called Basecamp, and Basecamp allows me to invite people to collaborate together to do proofing of components, to have discussion topics about the map, the rules, the player aid cards, the counters, game cards. Every component has its own discussion topic. And then we have separate threads for example, Fortress Europa, there's been over 100 posts on the counters of the design of the counters and over 100 posts on the design of the map board. And that's just the design process. So one thing to be aware of when I say I get a project at Compass and we announce a pre-order, it's not like, oh, we just got this pre-order and now we have to get the game ready. We have a lot of games. I've got a pipeline I've got probably an active pipeline with Compass that's good for about at least 3 to 5 years of doing titles, a healthy dose of titles. If we do, say, 6 to 8 games per year, I've got a good, easily 3 to 5 years of a pipeline already that games are being actively worked on. And you know that from the pre-order list. If you look at the Compass page, you see a lot of pre-orders of games I haven't even talked about tonight that are being worked on. A good example of Hitler's Last Gamble from Danny Parker is being worked on. It's been worked on for a long time. But the thing I learned was, and it was a benefit for not just me, but I think it was a benefit for everybody and for our game projects. So Red Star White Eagle benefited greatly from a much better quality and assurance process and proofing process. So I have a grid I go through where every person proofs a different component. So we have 5 different people proofing over each other on their own independently. So it's like 5 cycles of blind proofing that go through a game. So if something slips, it's a lot harder to slip through. Of course, I get very upset if there's errata, if something slips, but this process is meant to catch those embarrassing slips. Because if you get too close to a project like we do, typically, we're not going to catch a counter errata because we're not going to see it. Our eyes aren't going to register to, oh, something's missing a dot. We're just not going to see it. And that's why you'll see me ask for people. So that's the first thing I learned, was a pretty harsh lesson that I failed in terms of project management on the first project, but we sold out of the game and we got the counters out there and everybody's happy with it. So yay, I survived that. And then all the recent games I've been on have done very well, very successful with the errata, people very happy with them. So the new process is definitely working. The other thing I tried was doing broadcasts. So believe it or not, these broadcasts weren't 100% for you, believe it or not. I know that sounds like it's an insult to you, the viewer, and I don't mean to piss you off, but the reason I do these broadcasts, if you think about it, is if I'm doing marketing for Compass and updating the website, and granted, it's just the homepage I'm updating, there's no blog, or it's Facebook, or it's the forum, and I'm not, obviously I'm not doing every project. There's, when we have I'm counting, when we have 22 releases in a year, how am I going to keep track of 22 releases while I'm also doing game projects, managing projects? Like, how am I seriously going to know what's going on unless I force myself to get educated on what's going on at Compass? So by doing these broadcasts, what's it mean? It means I have to ask Bill or Ken or Billy Thomas or anybody associated with, say, a designer working with Compass. I need to know about a given game project. Or if I do a broadcast and you have questions like you have now, I get to take these questions back, because if I don't know the answer, I'm going to learn about it as well, because I don't know every answer myself. And you know that, because you've seen me not make up answers. I'm like, I don't know every answer about every project. I just don't know the status of every project. It's absolutely true. So I've learned that the broadcasts have been very helpful for me to keep pace with Compass games, period. What's it meant for you? I don't know. I hope for you it's meant a community that we can get together. You can ask questions. I don't shy away from criticism. Like, it's okay. I don't mind you guys getting pissed off about something. Like, you don't see me ignore any critical comments, and I'll try to act on them. Like, I'll try to help if I can. I don't want you to stay pissed. That would mean you're going to get pissed off and tell 10 other people, right? So who would want to do that? So we're not that type of company, and I'm not that type of a person. So I think I'm comfortable talking to you guys about not knowing stuff, and I'll be honest about it. And you guys are helping me be better, because you will tell me how I can do things better. I did a survey. You guys helped with survey results. I haven't been able to get into doing tutorials on how to play games, because to be honest, I just don't have the time to do game tutorials, to learn a game that well, to give you a tutorial. I'm not the guy to do it. I cannot do that. If I do that, it's going to take away from the marketing, the email campaigns, whatever I'm doing already with projects. I can't zoom in on a game to that level to become an expert on the game, to then walk you through a Vassal tutorial. It can't be me. So I know you've said you want tutorials. So if we can get any of you, or if we can find anybody who wants to contact me, who wants to use Vassal to do tutorials, and of course you post them to YouTube yourselves, or you can talk to Kev Sharp at the big board and he'll sponsor you. If he finds the content is good enough, he'll give you a chance where he'll post to his platform, and he'll give you an exclusive, or will be an exclusive for at least a week. And I think it's a great idea. And I would recommend do any reviews you can, or especially tutorial videos, because I know you guys would love to have them. I would love to do them myself. I honestly don't have time to play games, to be honest, so I can't do any tutorials. So that's just the way it is. So I have to limit my focus where I can. But these broadcasts help me keep up to date. Also, the broadcasts help us unveil new pre-order games, obviously. For me, that's the most fun. To me, it's about what's new or what's coming. That's what I enjoy. I also enjoy doing designer interviews. I hope you like interviews to meet the designers. I can't get everybody because some people just don't have webcams, or they just don't want to be on camera. So some people don't take to the medium, and that's perfectly okay. But you know how informal I am. I never do a script ever. I just do bullet points to not forget things. But I'm very informal in what I do. If you would be interested in speaking as a audience member, I'd be open to opening video up for you and making you somebody who can talk, doing a broadcast as a participant. I just can't pre-test the audio quality, which is a little nerve-wracking. So to be honest, I'd probably limit it to those that are on this Zoom platform, logged in to this live broadcast. Facebook, I can't even do it on Facebook Live. It's not possible. But if you're on the Zoom platform, and if you're ever interested in speaking up to say hello, I would be open to that. I'd love to do that, to hear from you and have you ask questions vocally using audio. I think that'd be fun. Or even video. If you have a webcam, I'm happy to do that as well. So other things I've learned is we did some email blasts that didn't use our newsletter, quote unquote. And I don't know if you know the difference, but we did some emails, and we used Constant Contact. And I liked that we used the emails for Constant Contact. It gave us a little more control of the visual quality. The presentation quality was a bit better, but I wasn't able to do weekly emails in that top quality format. So I would say, given my bandwidth, we might be putting a break on that for a little bit. And I have to talk to Bill Thomas, and we have to make some marketing decisions. We could probably use your input on. One is where would I spend more time to help build this community connection? One thought is, do I reinvest more time into doing a weekly Constant Contact type email, which is very nice, focused on only one or two topics. And since I do a broadcast nearly weekly, or definitely bi-weekly, obviously at least that Constant Contact email can mention what I'm going to talk about in that broadcast, which might be helpful, or it might have a link to the most recent broadcast. So that could be helpful, because our newsletters are typically very long. They're about 5 different topics that cover 3 to 5 games, and then other news. And then in the bottom section, I have social media links at the bottom about the latest social media posts from whoever, like the most recent 15. So I don't know if you get that newsletter. If you subscribe to our newsletter on our website, that's what you're getting. So, I don't know if the Constant Contact is a way to go or not. One thing that I'm most interested in knowing is, how do you guys like the Compass Games website? How is that working for you? So is the website working for you in terms of navigation? Is the search working for you? I have my own opinions about it. I'd be very interested in, if you are Compass Games, what do you think about the website? What do you think it needs? What do you think we need to do at Compass in general to do better? So again, I would just say email me at compassgames.com. Send me your feedback. Happy to take it offline. You can post on Facebook as well, or on Consum World Forum if you don't want to email me directly. but I'd be very interested to hear about your feedback, most definitely. So again, lessons learned for me would be, obviously the quality assurance I think is much better for managing projects now. Also, I learned a little bit about we can't be too aggressive with our release schedule. I think doing 4 to 5 games per month is very tough to do, but I think doing 2 to 3 games, doing 2 games on average, and I think Bill Thomas is really helping spearhead and drive this, is saying, yes, we should have the talent in-house, and we have the experience now. We should be able to at least do 2 titles per month, 2 new releases per month. I would be disappointed if we couldn't do at least 2 releases per month. That probably means something went wrong, in my opinion. So my goal is that we would at least meet that baseline of 2 releases per month. It's going to be interesting because we did Counting Paper Wars. We didn't quite do that for 2018. We did 22 releases, which included 3 Paper Wars, which is not 24. So we did just under 2 new releases per month for 2018. So if we did 2 on average for 2019, that would still be that would be faster, more than we did this calendar year. It would be a step up, in other words. So that will be interesting to see. So those are my lessons learned. My lessons learned are, again, broadcasts help me. Project management's a little tighter. Again, looking for ways to help the marketing better at Compass. Is it through email campaigns? Is it something about doing something to the website? Is it doing something else that I haven't thought of that you can tell me that needs to be done? Let me know what I can do to help Compass, because that's probably something I could do that could help you as well. So I just want to end on that note. Another big milestone for us for Compass Games for 2018 was our first Compass Games Expo. So that's something else that actually I took on when I joined Compass. Bill Thomas asked that I make sure I do a game convention on behalf of Compass Games, and we had our first one less than 2 months ago. And it was a big success. I was predicting maybe 60 people, 60 attendees. We had well over 100. I think it was around 120 attendees for our first year. I can announce that for next year and for future years, it's going to be, again, we're always going to be on Veterans Day weekend. So it's around that November 8th through 11th, 8th through 12th weekend. Veterans Day weekend, we're going to be doing Compass Games Expo. We just signed a 3-year, multi-year agreement with the same hotel, Red Lion Hotel in Cromwell, Connecticut. Will be there for the next 3 years on Veterans Day weekend. We definitely are expanding our venue. We already have more. I think we've basically doubled our space for next year. So we've definitely doubled the space. We'll have more to do for our venue. So that's been another big milestone for Compass Games, is we've now got our first event under our belt. We know how it works, so to speak, for Compass. We were very happy to reward everybody who attended with 50% off our products. So we're very, very happy to do it. So if that's something you can make, East Coast event, which I think it's perfect timing, early November, weather's fine. Please come out in 2019 and mark your calendars for that weekend in November. And I'll be announcing that shortly. And we'll also be announcing the pre-order and registration for Compass Games Expo 2019, which is about 11 months or a little less than 11 months away. So we're very excited about that. We're also excited to see the fruits of the labor for doing some Euro games is going to be coming to fruition early next year with the release of Colonialism, the expanded 2nd edition, as well as Cargo Express. Cargo Express is a game I saw at Compass Games Expo. I'm not a Euro game player. I don't know much about them, but I know they're great to play with family. And we're very excited. First half of 2019, we'll have those 2 games. We also have Stellar Horizon, which is a huge, fantastic, we've got even video intros already for Stellar Horizon. It's going to be a very sort of kick-ass game. Space is sort of it. It's a very popular topic, and we're doing a huge production value. Got the videos already happening. So yeah, basically what we're doing with Stellar Horizon is doing great artwork. We're going to do some great promos of it. And it's going to be unveiled at Gen Con 2019. It will be officially unveiled at Gen Con 2019. This will be our big event, one of our biggest events at Compass Games for 2019. Will be Stellar Horizon. Absolutely. Absolutely. So one thing I want to end on, which I will go ahead and I'll share this really quickly because it is really important, because there's still time to take advantage of this. And that is, even though if you're celebrating Christmas holidays and Christmas is behind us, if you're in the middle of winter holidays, I do hope that you're getting a winter break right now and playing games. I must mention that we have our Compass Games holiday savings going on. So if you go to our home page, just to prove it's there, guys, just to prove it, what's that big banner in blue? I'm showing right now, just above the release pipeline schedule, Compass Games holiday savings. It's still there. It's still going on. It's still active. Yes, it's still active for, as a matter of fact, it's still active until January 15th of 2019. So you've still got a full 2 weeks. So no excuses. Like, you can get hungover from eggnog for Happy New Year, which I'm sure you all do. If that's what you want to do and party all night and do all that, you've still got over 2 weeks to get over your hangover. You can download our catalog, which has all these specials as well, or you can simply order online using our holiday code 18. These holiday and special prices are valid through January 15th of 2019. So please tell everybody, especially those that are not online, we have our special holidays. So with that, I have one last thing to leave you with tonight besides answering your questions. And that is, I want to give you an update on some new announcements. So first, this might not be brand new, but how many of you are familiar, maybe a show of hands on Zoom, or there might be a delay on Facebook. I talked about John Edwards already. African campaign has sold out, but did very well for us. We expect Fortress Europa is going to do extremely well when that is released. You've seen the map for that tonight. How many of you are aware of a game called Europa at War by John Edwards, published by Jedco? That's his Australian company. How many of you know about this game? You can do a show of hands, I don't care. I don't know how many of you might have this game. I actually have this game, so shock. So one thing that's interesting about this game is, yes, we're working on a new edition of Europa at War. One thing we learned very quickly through research online, whether it's Board Game Geek, Console World Forum, any discussion forums, etc. And this is John Edwards' style as a designer. He likes simple rules, which can unfortunately mean a lot of unanswered questions or unaddressed game situations, if you catch my drift. So we're doing some work right now with Rohan Eckert out of Australia, I believe, who's also on Facebook. Rohan's been working the last 2 months on compiling all the potential role gaps, play situation gaps that we need to address in Europa at War to make this a truly complete game, So that's what the game was lacking. So we're working on that. And the reason I mention this game is that's my segue to tonight's big announcement. To close out the year 2018, I want to close out with a last announcement for the year. And that is, Compass has just recently signed John Edwards to do a new edition of his Victory at Sea board game. Now, what's interesting about this is you're thinking War at Sea or you're thinking Victory at Sea. I'm telling you, no, it's not War at Sea, and it's not, I'm sorry, it's not War at Sea, and it's not Victory in the Pacific. So let me start over. It's not those games from Avalon Hill. Those are the first ones you think of. You think of Victory in the Pacific, Avalon Hill, or you think of War at Sea from Avalon Hill. This is neither of those. This is a game that was only published by Jedco in Australia, and then it had a Japanese edition printed. That's it. No American US version ever released of Victory at Sea. So I'm very happy to announce that we're now have the chance. We're going to be publishing Victory at Sea, a John Edwards design that has never again, it's not been published yet in the United States. Here's a little snapshot of the game. If you want to take a quick look at your bookshelf to see if you have this game, because this will not be War at Sea. So think of this as War at Sea with some advanced rules that just didn't make it in his edition in America, etc. So we're going to be doing Victory at Sea at Compass. I'm really looking forward to this game. I think this game begs probably a mounted map treatment with those extra wide counters for the ships, etc., as you would expect. So this I'm expecting some great things from. So that's how I wanted to basically, I wanted to close out my year with you, is I want to announce Victory at Sea by John Edwards, and my pipeline of 3 to 5 years. It keeps growing, but don't worry, that game's not going to fall at the end of the pipeline. That game's going to get, I'm going to try to move that one, and we're going to try to fast track Victory at Sea, knowing how popular that title's going to be. So let me just check if there's any questions here from anybody. I don't see any questions really on the Zoom platform. I don't see any delays or questions yet from anybody on Facebook Live right now. So again, so for our year, you know, I really enjoyed it. You know, my personal story is I sort of suffered what you would call after the age of 50, a very hard corporate burnout, working the typical, not 9 to 5, but, you know, 8 to 6, and Outlook calendar with overlapping meetings and 8 to 10 meetings a day. It was ridiculous. It just got plain ridiculous at the end. I was pretty much at the end of my rope and just completely burned out. So I want to end the year by doing a big shout out and thank you first to Compass Games and Bill Thomas, Ken Dingley, but especially Bill Thomas. I want to thank Bill at Compass Games because I know he's the main person responsible who kept me off the streets since a little over 1.5 years ago by letting me do this full time, and also allowing me to have the independence to keep running Consum World completely separate as my own thing, as I've done for 20 plus years now. Since 1996 we've had Consum World, and I'll be launching Consum World Expo next week, and then the annual fundraiser drive for Consum World, which has been great. So I have to thank Bill Thomas and his family, Carolyn and Billy, for helping me join the family at Compass Games. It's been a thrill to get some projects done to sort of help pay my way. Right? I had to pay my way and do an event, Compass Games Expo. So it was great to leverage that experience from doing Consum World Expo all these years. And I'm very excited and bullish about what's to come from Compass next year. I think the quality of the games and the different topics will be very interesting. I think we're extremely keen. We want to do even a better job listening to you. So with that, I want to thank all of you. For those online live, thanks for your support. Thanks for helping me through the year and help guiding me in what you want to learn about. Thank the designers, all the graphic artists, all the proofers, all the volunteers that have helped Compass. We need more of you to help us. We have more projects. I have projects literally on hold that cannot move forward because I cannot find certain people for certain projects. So we could always use more people for various things. I want to also give a shout out to Hans Cording, who's done a fantastic proofing job recently for us. He did the Pacific Tide rules. He's been doing some other game projects. And I'm really pleased with the work that Hans has done to help us on multiple projects. John Kisner, I mentioned, has just joined us. I want to thank everybody online. I want to thank Big Board, Kev Sharp. I want to thank the Player Aid. You know, I just can't mention all the different groups. And if you think of going to Consum World News, you'll see there's a section on the homepage for Consum World News, all the blog sites, all the YouTube channels, et cetera, et cetera. Just a great resource for anybody in the hobby, for any publisher's games. Please, obviously, support all the people that support our hobby, that build this community today. Without them, we wouldn't be doing nearly as well. Our successful year is based on the success of you supporting us and saying nice things about Compass. It helps people decide they're willing to buy our products, basically, is what it does, and the growing confidence in us. And again, I just want to thank you all. I want to wish you all a very happy new year. And please take advantage of the holiday sale until January 15th of this new year. Please pick up whatever titles you're looking for. And guys, it's been a great 2018, but you know what? Fasten your seatbelts because I know what's coming in 2019. So I'll talk to you again in 2019. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.